Hi, thank you all so much for joining us for our National Call for Unity. This event is our national kickoff event for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Can you imagine? Can you believe it? We're only 5 days away from Domestic Violence Awareness Month 2019. Hashtag DVAM 2019. Our theme this year is One Thing, One Movement, Working Towards Our Collective Liberation. At NRCDV, we truly believe each of us can do one thing towards our collective liberation. Individually, we're not free until all of our brothers and sisters are free. Today and every day, we honor and celebrate the lives lost due to senseless acts of violence. We stand in solidarity with survivors of domestic and sexual violence, especially those most vulnerable and with limited access to services and protection. Today and every day, we honor the legacy of those who toiled before us and whose shoulders we stand on. Today, as we prepare for DVAM 2019, we celebrate the courage and resilience of survivors and the advocates who work each day to end and prevent domestic and sexual violence in their homes and communities. We come together to celebrate the rich diversity of people in this country and the vitality and strength they bring to our communities and society. Today, we stand in solidarity with other activists and organizations who continue to work passionately for gender, racial, economic, and social justice for all, aka our collective liberation. Several colleagues and friends have joined us to share the one thing they are looking forward to during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And they also just want to share their one thing, their personal and or organizational commitment to building a unified movement. First, we'll hear some words of wisdom from Shawndell Dawson, Director of the Family Violence Prevention and Services Program.
Good afternoon. I am Shawndell Dawson, Director of the Family Violence Prevention and Services Program. As we enter Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it is my honor to join you in the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence today for the call for unity. Your programming, services, community partnerships, and systems change all helps save lives and creates a pathway for more promising futures. Because of your leadership, local domestic violence programs are strengthening partnerships with health and social service agencies so that survivors and their children can be safe and thrive in their own communities. State administrators continue to find innovative and creative ways to enhance shelter and supportive services. 12 communities now have programs implementing specialized services for abused parents and their children. The Strong Hearts Native Helpline has opened a call center in Minnesota. Domestic violence coalitions continue to broaden our understanding and approaches for primary prevention of intimate partner violence all across this country. We have an Alaska Native Women's Resource Center supporting tribes and Alaska Native villages. We've expanded partnerships with healthcare providers and advocates. The National Domestic Violence Hotline continues to meet the demand of thousands more calls each year. The Domestic Violence Resource Network has strengthened technical assistance partnerships to increase access to housing, to support more engagement with diverse communities, and to deepen our understanding of the intersectionality of substance use, opioids, and intimate partner violence. All of this is possible because of all of you. You all have been amazing creators of FIPSA's legacy for survivors and their children. Together, we've built strong, comprehensive, and innovative programs that meet the myriad of needs for children, youth, and their families impacted by domestic violence. On behalf of the FIPSA program, I want to thank you for your work supporting the millions of women, men, children, and youth seeking safety and support each year. We stand in awe and in gratitude for advocates' leadership, courage, sacrifice, and commitment to lifting up survivors' voices and empowering them in whatever ways are necessary to help survivors safely thrive. It is an honor to join all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shawndell. Now we'll hear some words of wisdom from Chief Executive Officer for the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, Farzana Safiullah.
Good afternoon. This is Farzana Safiullah from the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. I'd like to welcome you all to today's event. 2019 marks NRCDV's 25th year of providing advocacy, training, and resources to those working to end domestic violence. The NRCDV receives funding from the Family Violence and Prevention Services Act through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, who's celebrating the 35th anniversary this year. We lead through the experiences of survivors of domestic violence and the voices of marginalized communities. The NRCDV has a diverse board of directors, and the organization is led by 3 women of color. In recognition of our 25th anniversary, I'd like to highlight some of our accomplishments. The Bonded Project was launched in 1995, becoming today the largest online collection of materials focused on domestic violence in the United States and widely accessed globally. It's accessed by more than 500,000 people a year, and its users come from 219 countries. 780,000 resources are accessed or downloaded. In 2009, the NRCDV, in partnership with the University of Connecticut, conducted the Shelter Study. The study revealed a good many findings, and I'll just highlight a couple. It revealed the positive impact of shelters on survivors. It also reflected the diversity of survivors' needs. It provided documentation of housing as a critical need, which led to more work on transitional and other long-term housing programs. And finally, it shed light on the need for more culturally inclusive and welcoming shelter environments. Prevention is a significant achievement for the NRCDV. Domestic violence can be prevented. It requires the collective voice and power of individuals, families, and institution systems. If programs are to be successful, they have to be developed to prevent intimate partner violence. Attention must be given not only to the behavior of individuals, but also to the environmental context within which people live, work, and play. In 2011, NRCDV helped convene the Intimate Partner Violence Prevention Council, which represents a unified national effort committed to enhancing the capacity of state, territory, domestic violence coalitions, and community-based domestic violence programs to advance a comprehensive national prevention agenda. In 2015, the Domestic Violence and Housing Technical Assistance Consortium was launched. Consortium is a unique partnership between 4 federal partners and 6 technical assistance providers working at the critical intersection of domestic violence, sexual assault, homelessness, and housing. The NRCDV serves as the lead coordinating organization for the consortium. In 2016, NRCDV received funding for the National Capacity Building Center on Safe and Supportive Housing on Domestic Violence Survivors, which enabled us to further support the Domestic Violence and Housing Technical Assistance Consortium. Because women of color are disproportionately affected by domestic violence and its after effects, and because systemic oppression further exacerbates the effects of intimate partner violence in communities of color, racial justice must be centered to transform efforts to end domestic violence. That is the mission of the NRCDV. And I'll give you an example of this need to center racial justice. Research demonstrates that domestic and sexual violence are the leading causes of homelessness for the survivors of color. For a woman of color survivor who is homeless, her journey to safety, wellness, and home is much more difficult, if not impossible. It is in this spirit I urge all of us in today's call to reach out to our communities, colleagues, friends, and families to do our number one thing to end domestic violence and pave the path to liberating ourselves from injustice and oppression. Thank you so much.
Based on the awesome wisdom and words from Shawndell Dawson and Farzana Safiullah, I also encourage you to think about your one thing. What is the one thing you can do to contribute to enhanced services for survivors and preventing violence from occurring in the first place? And we will give you some additional resources in the end that'll help you to identify action steps that can go along with the one thing that you would like to do. Again, we are highlighting intersecting issues. You've heard about the intersections of domestic violence and other issues, and the need for us to take action, not only as an individual, but collectively. That's the only way we will prevent and end domestic violence from occurring in the first place. So please feel free to share your one thing in the comment box. Share your one thing with your friends and your families. Don't forget your hashtag one thing, and hashtag DVAM 2019. Now we'll hear from Jacqueline Miller, founder of Healthy Actions, intervening responsibly. Here, love it. Jacqueline? This is Facebook Live. How exciting! Okay, so let's move on. Hopefully, we'll have Jacqueline join us a little later to tell us about her one thing that she's excited about for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I've spoken to Jacqueline, so I know she is very excited about Domestic Violence Month and her one thing as she look forward to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. All right, now we'll have Officer Denise Pinkney from the Yemassee Police Department. Hi, Denise.
Good evening. How's everyone? And I hope everyone is doing fine. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Of course, we all know, and it's certainly an honor and a pleasure to play a role in the National Call for Unity live broadcast. This year, my one thing, hashtag one thing, is for 31 days, the Yemassee Police Department will have an individual post this sign, no more domestic violence. And this is our hashtag one thing. And we hope that if we just touch one person's life and make a difference and make everyone aware of how serious domestic violence is, then we have done our due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. I love that. I want to challenge everyone and put out a call of action as well. What are you going to do for the next 30 days and beyond? But let's start with the next 30 days. What are you going to do for Domestic Violence Awareness Month? What is your one thing? Share that with us in the chat box. Share that with us via Twitter, Instagram. And as you share it with us, you'll be sharing it with your communities. You'll be sharing it with the world. And like Officer Denise Pinkney said, we can challenge others to do the same, right? If you can reach one person, that one person can reach another person, and that person can reach another person. So that is how we're going to achieve our overall goal of ending and preventing domestic violence. We do believe that at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, this one thing messaging campaign has gone far and wide, and we're wanting it to go even further. So now we'll hear from Rebecca De Leon from the National Latina Network for Healthy Families and Communities. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello. Thank you, Arlene. As Arlene mentioned, my name is Rebecca De Leon. I am the Communications and Marketing Manager for Casa de Esperanza's National Latino Network. And in this call, I would like to address primarily my Latina sisters, my Latino brothers, and my Latinx siblings. I want to acknowledge the struggle that we are going through right now. There's no way around it. Our community is under attack in ways that we have not seen for a long time. I especially want to create room for our immigrant families, we who have been torn apart, who have been living in fear of being torn apart, who have had people shout at us that we don't belong here, that we're a scourge and an invasion to American society. I want to create space and honor those who made the impossible decision to flee their country, everything they've ever known and loved, to come to the United States and face racism in exchange for a chance at safety and peace for their children. I want to create space and honor the mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters in detention at our border right this very moment, fighting despair, overcrowding, and family separation or indefinite detention because they took that chance to pursue a life without violence. I want to create space and honor the Mexican American families who were affected by the targeted mass shooting in El Paso recently by someone who's heard the same thing that we've all heard, that Latinos are the villains. I want my community siblings to know that we are not what they say we are. We are resourceful survivors. We are proud and strong and beautiful, and we bring so much to culture, and we bring art and sazon to our surroundings, and we make everything more beautiful. And that's what we will continue to do. We will not apologize for embracing who we really are, despite what we're told. There's a saying in Spanish, quisieron enterrarnos, pero no sabían que éramos semillas. They tried to bury us, but they did not know that we are seeds. We fight a hard battle against oppression from what seems like every corner of society, and sometimes from within our own homes or workplaces or even our own intimate relationships as well. So to those of you fighting every day for justice, for equity, for peace, for love, for safety, for self-worth, for your family, I say rest today so that you may heal for tomorrow. El cansancio de hoy será tu fortaleza mañana. The fatigue that you have today will be your strength tomorrow. Please know that we love you, we stand with you, and we weep with you at each tragic story we hear about the suffering of our people. The children's faces behind bars at the detention facilities look like my cousin's face, my partner's face, my child's face. We Latinos are great at community healing, and we're great at community pain. But above all of that, I stand in awe of the strength, resilience, tenacity, humor, and hope that I see from our survivors, our activists, and our Latinx hermanos y hermanas. Today, we sit in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month, or Latinx Heritage Month. Especially now, we can draw inspiration from Latinx pioneers across industries, from Isabel Allende to Cesar Chavez, from Maria Hinojosa to Sonia Sotomayor, from Celia Cruz to Desi Arnaz, Oscar de la Hoya to Dolores Huerta, and everyone in between. We enrich our culture, break barriers, and thrive in impossible situations. Our past, present, and future are all connected by our diligence, passion, and positive energy. Because of this, our future is bright and the incoming generation is rising, educated, and passionate. We are fostering strong youth across many countries and many cultures, such as Emma Gonzalez, Malala Yousafzai, Chutet Scott Martinez, and Greta Thunberg, who have decided that they will use their voice to speak up for what they know they deserve and speak out against injustice and violence. They inspire me to continue in this work knowing that we're paving the way for our next great generation. So to my community, I say levántate, suspira, sonríe y sigue adelante. So the one thing that I would like to say, my una cosa, we're doing great because we are great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I think at this moment, let's just pause for a moment of silence to remember lives lost due to senseless acts of violence. And also, as Rebecca told us, let's pause, stop, and think about individuals who are suffering as a result of injustices, and inequalities. And as a reminder, our collective liberation is connected to all of us. None of us individually is free until all of us are free. Now we'll have Laura Peak from No More. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Arlene. Thank you so much. Thank you to NRCDV. And I want to say quickly, thank you so much to Rebecca. That was I'm very moved. I'm going to have trouble getting through this. That was really beautiful and means a lot to everyone on this call. Thank you so much. My name is Laura Peak. I am the digital media manager for No More. I'm so happy to be here with everyone today. It's always an honor to work every year with our friends at NRCDV and the incredible organizations of the Domestic Violence Awareness Project as we work to craft a theme and a message for DVAM that will resonate with people working both inside and outside of the field, really inspire them and call them to action. The One Thing, One Movement theme for 2019 represents the unified effort between those working to end domestic violence and sexual assault. And that is a mission that is very dear to our organization at No More. Our mission at No More is to end domestic violence and sexual assault by increasing awareness, inspiring action, and fueling culture change. We aim to lift up the voices and work of survivors, individuals, and organizations who are working at the front lines to address these issues. Something that No More always focuses on during DVAM is working within the theme to reach people who may be interested in ending domestic violence and sexual assault, but don't really know where to start. So with One Thing, One Movement message, we can bring those people into the conversation and connect them with the organizations that are providing these life-saving direct services to victims and survivors. A large focus of ours during DVAM 2019 will be to highlight the work that our local chapter organizations and our steering committee members, many of whom are on this call, are doing to eliminate violence. We'll be adding the One Thing message to all of our social media communication and asking our followers and supporters what Arlene just asked of you. What is your one thing? What's the reason you're dedicated to these issues? What are the small actions that you can take to end the behaviors and attitudes and language that support domestic violence? What we love about the One Thing theme is that it's so easily integrated into any DVAM initiative. For example, we'll be asking our supporters during DVAM to tweet at dictionaries, asking them to remove the term wife beater in reference to an article of clothing. And it's such a simple one thing. The message there is so simple. One thing you can do to eliminate language that supports violence is to copy this tweet and tweet it at a dictionary. So we really love how versatile the message is and how well it can be integrated into all of our DVAM communications. The One Movement theme this year is so valuable to us. We want to show that the movements to end domestic violence and sexual assault are inextricably linked to one another. We know that all violence, interpersonal, sexual, domestic, is connected. We know that our approaches must be intersectional, inclusive, and we know that ending violence means repairing broken systems in our communities, addressing injustice and oppression wherever we can. We're honored to be able to work with the incredible agencies on this call and with all of you to fix these broken places, to speak to the injustices in our society, and to commit to moving forward as one movement, using our collective one things to bring an end to domestic violence and sexual violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I want to echo what Laura talked about in regards to the Domestic Violence Awareness Project Advisory Group. It's a collective group of individuals made up of survivors, advocates, national organizations, community based organizations, very diverse group that comes together throughout the year to focus on our theme and our approach for Domestic Violence Awareness Month and beyond. And the One Thing campaign, the group intentionally developed the One Thing messaging campaign as a tool that's easy to remember, easy to say, and easy to adapt. So they were really strategic about doing that. And at the end, I will share information about how you can access our One Thing action guide and do the same in your community with an existing campaign, or if you have a brand new campaign that's coming out for DVAM. So stay tuned for that information. I'll share it at the end. All right, so now we will have Jacqueline Miller, founder of Healthy Actions Intervening Responsibility, and the acronyms
Hi,
for her organization.
thank you, Arlene and NRCDV. I am Jacqueline, and I'm really honored to be part of this conversation today. The One Thing movement, one movement, working together. 2 years ago, I launched an initiative to address the impact adultification has on children, with an emphasis on Black girls. And along my journey, I found that I was operating from multiple levels of fear and layers of fear as well, which were direct results of childhood exposure to domestic violence and sexualization. I soon found for me to do this work, I needed liberation, but then I found true liberation would not take place for me unless it was also from a standpoint of equity and made just as much as a priority. So I found for me to walk in true liberation meant that I had to let go of the apologies that I was making when it came to expressing what I needed. I had to let go of the apologies when it came to me blurting out my opinion during conversations. I had to let go of apologizing for the times that I resisted stereotypes and historical narratives that I was surprised to be labeled from. Recent studies reveal that a good majority of adults perceive Black girls to be less worthy of playtime and protection, and that they are very likely to be knowledgeable about sex and adult topics. So, when I reflect on my past experiences, lived experiences, based on the work that I'm doing, I have come to understand that those who violated me never saw me as a child. I reached inside and took my 8-year-old self by her hand, and we together began to overcome rejection and the fear thereof. We began to uproot causes of layers and oppression, mistruth, fear, toxic fear, chronic fear, and crippling fear that denied us for so many years, precious years of experiencing, enjoying, and relishing in a liberated life and lived experiences. So, encountering beliefs that no one wanted to hear about the plight of Black girls, I once again reached deep inside, this time reaching for both hands of my 8-year-old self, and said, we would do this work together. And we made a toolbox which includes Nelson Mandela's quote that says, there is no greater revelation about society other than how it treats its children. I challenge my own biases, beliefs that silence equals safety, or at least minimizes it or lessens the frequency of trauma and adverse experiences. I added another quote to my toolbox. What Audre Lorde said about silence is that it will not protect you. So, what I found to be true based on my experience is silence crippled and imprisoned me. I actively engage in the hands on work of building resilience, as I have used my ACE score as a foundation to analyze the differences between my score, which is a 4, and to me it seems quite low in comparison to the impact of my experiences that it has on my life. And if a provider were to ask me the level of my pain on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 10 and a half. But now, when it comes to liberation in the movement, liberation has come by healing myself, which started with letting go of the apologies, breaking my own silences. I am unapologetic about the equity of my healing, the lack of equity that caused me to wade in waters where I was told to sink or swim. Our theme this year is to work together towards collective liberation. And the truth is, I have already motivated and inspired myself to be unapologetic about reaching out to strangers across the globe to share the truths and challenges to liberations from a survivor's perspective. I deserve to go at my own pace, to take my time, to heal and liberate those precious years, to build resilience. And it's that one thing that I can offer, it's this one thing that I can offer future generations and the movement as we work together for collective liberation. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Jacqueline, some very important points. And as individuals are thinking about their one thing, you're giving them strategies, you're talking about issues that's impacting particular communities, specifically Black girls and Black and brown girls. And also, letting folks know that you have resources and you have information that you can share if they reach out to your organization. So thank you so much. Now we will have Gretchen Shaw join us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Gretchen Shaw. I'm the Deputy Director here at NCADV, and we are quite honored to be among the just amazing people on today's Facebook Live event. As many of you may know, NCADV is now in its 41st year, so we are certainly no stranger to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Having been a longtime staff member of NCADV, I have to say I feel more and more empowered each year in seeing the convening together of the multitude of organizations doing this work. It's exciting and humbling to know there are so many of us at the table now, and we're each taking our own piece of the issue and addressing it with our own audiences in the way that we best can. Congratulations also to the National Domestic Violence Resource Center. Thank you so much for leading these efforts today. I didn't realize it was your 25th anniversary and think that's quite amazing. I've been contemplating and trying to think about what my number one thing is, and it's very hard for me to narrow it down personally. One, I absolutely love that campaign. I think it's quite brilliant, and I'm excited to see how viral it goes and how wide the message spreads using that hashtag. Here at NCADV, we will most certainly be cross-promoting that campaign along with many of the others listed here today, and applauding the efforts of those who are working with specific communities to empower the survivors that they work with. NCADV's mission primarily is focused on amplifying and lifting the voices of victims and survivors of domestic violence, and we have a number of ways that we do that. We just completed our 18th National Conference on Domestic Violence in Washington, D.C. last week and held a National Lobby Day, both of which were very successful. Throughout the month of October, we certainly will be promoting our own hashtags and our own Domestic Violence Awareness Toolkit, which we are certainly happy to share among as yet another resource in addition to what the NRCDV and others here are doing. Within that toolkit, people can find online resources, sample social media posts, shareable visual content, a suggested campaign promotion calendar, and then also additional ways to get involved and stay involved in the issue of educating people around the topic of domestic violence. So I'll share that personally on the public chat. But want to wrap it up by saying, we're not the only resource. We certainly are honored to be among many people and organizations working to combat this issue, empower survivors, and collectively together, I think we're all making an impact. So please, as you march forward into your Domestic Violence Awareness Month efforts, take a look at all of us and use the resources that most resonate with you, with your community, and certainly support those that need the most support. Thank you again today for letting us be here today. Again, we appreciate your efforts to lead our launch into Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we look forward to seeing how this resonates throughout the month of October.
Great. Thank you so much, Gretchen. And I'm glad you mentioned the conference. It was amazing. I attended several workshops and also facilitated, I think I facilitated one. Yeah. One. And my experience at the conference was great. So thank you all for taking on your leadership role in creating space to bring together so many advocates and addressing so many issues that advocates face and survivors face on a daily basis. So, whether you have joined us live or you're watching the replay, I hope you are as inspired as I am. And as you can see, there's several one thing images that has shown up or is showing up on the screen, and I will definitely tell you how to get those images. You don't have to recreate the wheel. And again, thank you. We appreciate you. If you're listening, if you're live now, if you're listening to the replay, just know you are appreciated by many. You're appreciated by all the presenters, the organizations represented on the live today. You're appreciated by survivors who may or may not have the opportunity to tell you that on a day-to-day basis. If you are a survivor or an advocate, remember you are never alone in your healing journey and your efforts to end domestic violence. The National Resource Center, in collaboration with the Domestic Violence Awareness Advisory Committee, has put together lots of resources to assist you along your journey. And several organizations that spoke and individuals that spoke also shared that they had resources as well. So you're never alone, no need to recreate the wheel. As we're talking about one thing, I'm sure you want to know more, right? You want to learn more about one thing. Our Domestic Violence Awareness Project website has been redesigned. That process was led by survivors and advocates, and we have a host of one thing resources available on that website. The information is packaged in a way that's user friendly. We have a domestic violence awareness month and beyond one thing action guide. And that action guide has a variety of templates, a variety of resources, and a lot of tips based on feedback from the group and from communities about how to integrate the one thing message. So, no need to reinvent the wheel. We have all the resources that you need for you to support this campaign expanding its reach beyond us and beyond what we are probably thinking about. We also, on our Domestic Violence Awareness Project website, we have a DVAM readiness checklist. We have 5 days left. We have lots of resources to help you move your campaigns and messages forward. We have tips on how to engage with media, and we have tips on how to create a local DVAM proclamation. So lots of resources on our relaunched, redesigned website that we will be relaunching during October. The link will be provided for you in the comment box, so look out for that. And one of my favorites, this pre-DVAM and during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, is a 3 questions and a song tutorial series that our Domestic Violence Awareness Project had the idea to form, right, to create. And our Training Institute manager, Yvonne Ortez, took their vision and brought it to life in such a way. It's so exciting. It's so friendly. And like I said, it's one of my favorites for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's an easy way to share messages that are digestible. So we know domestic violence is a huge issue. And oftentimes people don't feel connected. People feel like they don't have the words, right? They don't have the words to motivate individuals towards action. We have our campaign. We have our 3 questions in a song, and we also have our awareness plus action equals social change campaign. Again, available on our Domestic Violence Awareness Project website, and you can reach out to us at any point in time for resources. Again, you don't have to recreate the wheel, and I want to reemphasize that. Again, our work is very hard and can be very exhausting, but in the midst of all of it, I encourage you and I challenge you to find hope and to find joy. In order for us to thrive, we must be intentional to seek out, recognize, and savor in the beauty that's amongst us. So again, as we approach Domestic Violence Awareness Month, hashtag DVAM 2019, I encourage you to seek joy. Do more of what makes your soul happy and constantly think about your one thing. What is the one thing that you can do consistently towards ending domestic violence and other forms of injustices? Again, thank you for taking the time to join us, whether you're joining us live or on the replay. Feel free to share your one thing with us in the chat box, and have a wonderful Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Have a great afternoon. Thank you on behalf of the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence and our Domestic Violence Awareness Project Advisory Group. One thing, one movement, working together for our collective liberation.